Welcome to Hotness, the podcast that brings you practical tools to balance your hormones and rekindle connection, confidence, and desire in midlife and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Liz Lyster. Hotness is a safe space for honest conversations about menopause, sex, identity, love, loss, reinvention, and desire, because you can embrace your hotness at every age. Welcome, Hot One, to the Hotness podcast, where hormones, confidence, and desire come back online. I am very excited to share with you my spicy conversation with one of my dearest and longest-term friends, the Reverend Lynn LaBorde. Lynn is a spiritual healer, teacher, co-founder of Soma Life Sanctuary in Long Island, New York, where she's guided thousands of students through transformational classes and trainings. She is a transformational alchemist. She talks about this a little bit, and she'll explain what that means. She also teaches her healing methods through online programs, trainings, live gatherings, using her methods to help people develop their own intuitive and energetic skills. It's really very super cool. She helps people release energetic and emotional blockages so that they can heal themselves and help others. It's just absolutely beautiful. She is a trance channel, Reiki master, yoga teacher, ordained reverend, and integrates all these multiple modalities to help people with deep personal transformation, which I've had the good fortune to experience myself. She's the author of Channeling Magdalene, A Year of Love. You'll get to see the book if you watch the video of our interview. And she's continually writing and teaching on spiritual awakening, divine connection. We talk all about that. It gets a little spicy. Definitely there's swearing on this podcast, and it just gets fun and spicy, as my conversations with Lynn always do. Please enjoy. Hi, welcome to Hotness. I am so delighted to have you here, Reverend Lynn LaBorde, who I've known for many, many decades. And you're usually Linny to me, but that's okay. And I'm going to start us off with a question, and then we can take it in all sorts of directions, as we often do. And what I want to start off with, given your spiritual healing and other incredible deep healing skills that you have and background, I often hear from women in midlife that they're feeling like they're having a spiritual awakening, right? I think I've experienced that as well, I would say. And so what is happening? What the heck is going on from a spiritual standpoint?
So we're pretty much driven by our hormones, like hormonally crazed when we're younger. And as the hormones start to drop, and I know that that's your field of mastery, what happens is we're like, is that all there is? As the sex drive starts to drop, we find ourselves turning within. And as Jesus says, the kingdom of heaven is within. And we start to have like this spiritual reconnaissance where we're like, who am I? What is my purpose? Like, I raised my kids, I got married, had the job, had the career. And then all of a sudden we're like, there's got to be more.
Is that all there is? Yeah.
Is that all there is? Exactly. So what happens is our higher self, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, our spiritual self starts to come forth, because first there's spirituality, our divinity. It's the place where we have our desires come forth. Then there's the world of the mind, and that's where our intentions are. We have this desire for this thing to happen. We go to the mind. The mind is like, I'm going to make this thing happen. Then we go to our emotions, the emotional body. That's where we allow the thing to come into manifestation. And then we have the physical realm, which is the accomplishment of it, of the thing that we desired. So it's like this paradigm matrix for manifestation. And what happens is we start to go backwards, and we're like, I have everything I ever wanted. Mm-hmm. I've done my emotional work. I've done all the therapy I can do in the mental realm. But now we come upon this spiritual essence of us. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I do, there's a book that I've written. I actually happen to have it right here.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And I'm writing a second one with her. This is the first one that we did together, Channeling Magdalene. So Mary Magdalene came to me when I was in the darkest place in my life. This was the beginning of 2019. And Lizzie, I was like, done. I didn't want to be here. I said to my mom, like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yes.
She's like, what? Mary Magdalene comes in and she has me read a book that was on my bookshelf for the longest time. It was called The Disappearance of the Universe. One of my best friends, Sherry, had me buy this book but I'd never read it. And Magdalene's like, read the book. And it actually sent me back to the Course in Miracles, which I contacted when I was like 24 years old back in 1985. And it sent me on this journey of realizing that we're not a physical body. We're not the feelings that we have that sometimes take us out completely. We're not even the thoughts that we have, but we're something beyond that. And that's when we come into the essence of our divinity. And for me, that journey has been a very feminine one. Because when you think about the feminine and how she receives and allows and lets, yet everything comes through her womb, through these acts of creation. And while the masculine is what contains the feminine, we have grown up in a society where women were better men than the men were. So many of our men died in the war.
Okay.
And then the boys were being raised by women. But one of the most masculine things a woman can do is be a mother. Like, mothering is a very masculine activity. So the men grew up with these very, very strong women, but these emasculated men. So now we're coming to the point where we're like, I want someone to help me. And the goddess comes in and she says, now is our time to walk together. It's our time now.
I want to pause 1 second. I want you to go back just a second to what you just said, that mothering is a very masculine activity, because I will never forget the first time that I was told that. And I absolutely rebelled. I'm like, that's insane. That's crazy. Okay. Like, I have my children and, we think of the mother and the nurturing aspect of the mother. So I actually know what you're talking about, but go ahead and say a little bit more.
So when you think of a child getting trapped underneath a train car or you're underneath a car and the mother is able to lift the car and save the child, that's a masculine energy. Most women I know are better men than most men. And like, we were raised to be strong. We were raised in a masculine environment. We weren't raised to be goddesses. We weren't raised to talk to the trees. We weren't raised to be in the garden. We were raised to go supermarket shopping.
In our modern world, with a list, organized, and a meal plan. Got it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Productive, organized. Yeah.
Work. Do. We weren't taught the way of the goddess. We weren't taught about enjoying massages and having people peel us a grape. And we weren't taught to
rub our feet,
soak in a tub, even like everything became a competition, even the clothes we wore and the trips that we had and keeping up with the Joneses and the neighbors next door. It became really competitive. And that's not, like, if you've read The Red Tent, which I'm sure that you have, The Red Tent was where women were sent right before their moon cycles. And the men would come to them and say, help to solve this problem. And then the women would have these incredible dreams. And they would bring healing to the tribe. Women were honored by their sisters. That doesn't happen in this society. You got Real Housewives where they're screaming at each other and fighting with each other.
Right.
I cannot watch that show. And I've got
absolutely. No.
I got a friend on the show, Amanda Francis, and I'm like, Amanda, please leave the show. Please leave the show.
That they make it, they even fake it. Like, they're even
I don't know that they're faking it so much. I think they push them. I think they prod them.
They do.
Like how they poke the bull to get the bull angry.
Yes.
Anyway.
I know this because I knew 3 women. A friend of mine had a travel agency with 2 other women. It was like this high end, if you wanted a James Bond experience, it would be $100,000 in Monaco and etc. And they got along great. And they did such interesting work that one of the channels was going to do a reality show about them. But they got along too well, and they weren't willing to follow the script.
Right. That doesn't
sell.
And it doesn't sell. It doesn't sell. They want to see the big fight and this one gossiping about this one and this one gossiping about this one. When women come together in a community, they have each other's backs. And this is the spiritual renaissance. This is where we say, I love you. How can I support you? Not, I'm better than you, or I'm going to fight for the same man. We share in a community if we have to, rather than try to take the woman down. I've been studying the Essene community, which is a beautiful community that actually showed up about 80 years before Jesus. And in the middle of the desert, they were able to grow fruits and vegetables because they were in unison with the angel of air, the angel of water, the angel of fire, the earth herself. In the original Essene doctrine, it was our Father who art in heaven, our Mother who art the earth. It was the 7 angels of the Heavenly Father and the 7 angels of Earthly Mother. But we've forgotten about her. We don't pay homage to her. We started wearing sneakers and we lost our connection to the earth because of the rubber. The Indians wore moccasins and they were leather and they could connect. So there's a place where we're having to come back to ourselves. And, it's funny when I go into church sometimes, there's just so many older people there because they're like, I've seen everything, I've done everything, and all that's left is God, But for me, it's my mentor, Melanie Ann Lair. She says, God writes the paycheck. No, the goddess writes the paycheck. She says, go into something called the God zone. And for me, it's not the God zone, it's the goddess zone. And it's this place of having, like the goddess come within. And when you seat the goddess inside of you, there's nothing that you can't do, but not from a place of masculine drive, from a place of receiving and allowing and letting, as Allison taught us, that is the essence of divinity, feminine divinity.
Is the receiving.
Mhm.
And referring to Alison Armstrong, her
Right.
body of work, which is amazing.
Who's been a personal friend of ours for as long as we've known each
decades.
other.
Yes, that's right. That's true. That's exactly true.
So
when
funny.
we talk about, I know that's so amazing. When we talk about divine femininity, is that separate from other divinity? I want to bring back, you and I talk about masculine and feminine energies. We talk about that all the time whenever we're together and talking. And so say a little bit about that, because I think sometimes people hear divine feminine and they think of it as something that is going to divide women away from
not at all.
Men, for example.
No, in fact, the divine feminine is contained by the divine masculine. So the container for a woman to be able to surrender into her femininity is when she has a relationship with a man who can provide her safety like nothing else. It's funny, Allison said this recently. You can't have enough girlfriends to make you feel safe like one man can.
Indeed. And to the point of masculine feminine, right? In order so that we're not just being completely heteronormative, we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, right? There's couples where they're both women or they're both men, but there's still an interplay and exchange of masculine and feminine energy. They can't all be one. Right. It just flows back and forth kind of in this infinity sign.
And you have like the Mr. Mom where the wife is the breadwinner.
Right.
Like Amanda
Absolutely.
Francis, who's on Housewives of Beverly Hills right now. Like she's the breadwinner, But you have to understand that within this dynamic of energy, there's a vacillation that occurs. But women haven't honored their femininity. We weren't raised in a society where the divine feminine was honored, the divine masculine one. So we were raised to be good men. We weren't raised to be good girls, but it was like the sexuality wasn't revered. The femininity wasn't revered. It's like, let's cut it off. Let's shave it off. Let's pretend it doesn't exist, because men were overwhelmed by it. They didn't know how to interact with it from an empowering place.
Indeed. Indeed. And also frightened. Because it is a power. It's a huge power.
It's an incredible power when you think of the power of what the womb is. Like you can take any crazy emotion and push it down into the womb, and the womb acts like a portal to take it away from you.
Yes,
it's
regardless
phenomenal.
Of babies, just not only talking about physical human babies, but creativity and everything that emanates from there.
Money, creativity, sexuality, the sacral chakra, which exists in both men and women.
Right,
but you can use it as a portal for energy. Like if a man could take his anger and channel it into his sacral and release it there, it wouldn't be rape.
Indeed, that's always been an incredible thought experiment that I've tried to do. And I usually actually don't go all the way through with it, is how can there be arousal and violence at the same time? So that's just probably like a whole nother discussion for us to have another time. But
I remember reading an article in, I think it was Vanity Fair years ago, about this girl who was gang raped by this group of like a dozen men. And she kept having orgasm after orgasm after orgasm while she was being raped. And she said it just, turned her sideways because pleasure and pain became synonymous for her.
Okay.
I had a client that just said to me, she never allowed herself to have an orgasm with her husband because she didn't want to get pregnant, but she thought that an orgasm would mean she would get pregnant. So she never let herself have an orgasm. Isn't that fascinating?
In this day and age, can you imagine? That's what we're going to really make sure that people are very clear about how all of that actually goes. And women connecting to their own orgasms. I mean, I was never taught one single thing about that. I discovered that very accidentally in college. And I don't know if that's...
My childhood education were 3 books my mother had on the bookshelf. It was the Family Medical Dictionary, where I could see pictures. Okay. It was The Happy Hooker by Xavier Hollander. And it was
Okay.
everything you always wanted to know about sex, but were afraid to ask by Woody Allen. Like that
Oh,
was my
dear goodness. Okay,
like
which
I
is
was
very funny, but
screwed.
yes,
But
right.
it's like, and then I
Oh
was
my
reading
gosh.
Peanuts, like just to make myself laugh because
Right.
the insanity of it all. But remember one time I asked my mom a question about sex and she said, "You know more about sex than I do." And I was like so offended. I was like, "That's unfair. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Of course I
Plus,
don't."
you're asking a question. So my mother, who's now a retired pediatrician, had me so prepared for my period, for my
Yeah.
menstrual cycle, but we did not have one conversation ever related
There's
to
no
sex,
education.
sexuality. Yeah, my friend who her kids are now all into college, she says it's not sex education, it's puberty education. This
Right.
is what's happening. It's how
Exactly.
your body
Exactly.
changes. This is
Or how to
um,
honor, like our mothers weren't raised in a time where women were honored. They were women who got to work.
right.
My mother said, "Look, your men are going to leave you. They're either going to die, they're going to leave, you'll get a divorce, whatever. So you have to get the best education and you have to
Yeah.
become the breadwinner and you have to be the one to succeed in the family because that's what my grandmother did. My grandfather was 25 years her elder. He dies at 60 on the operating table. And suddenly she's, young with two daughters who were 8 and 3 and had to make a living, became a nurse, got paid $1 an hour in the 1800s. Sorry,
Incredible.
early
Right.
1900s.
Right. In other words, to survive, we had to
Yes,
be strong and
survival.
independent
Exactly,
in
because
order
there
to
wasn't a
survive.
community, like the Essene
Right.
community, everybody pitched in. And
Gotcha.
we didn't grow up in communities. You grew up, I think, very luckily in a Jewish community where people take care of each other. That's an old Essene tradition. I saw it with the studies that I did with Kabbalah. When you went to church on Sundays here, everybody was like judging you based on what you were wearing and how shiny your shoes were. And.
Yeah. Oh, that happens in other settings. Don't worry. And also, speaking of Kabbalah, which I will also be doing other episodes on because I want to talk more about that. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of the teachers that you and I do a lot of work with, which is David Guillaume, he talks about it the other way. He talks about the masculine as the energy and the feminine is the vessel that is containing the energy. But now that you and I are having this conversation, I can see the difference because you're talking about feeling safe. One of the things I talk about with women, because I'm taking care of midlife women and we're doing hormone replenishment and we're just helping women kind of get their brains back so that they can then be able to have these self-honoring experiences that you're talking about. And so what's happening is that they are feeling, well, like I said, being able to get their brains back, and they're feeling lack of libido, one of the most common things that I talk about with women. And safety is essential, right? We think that sex drive is, I think about sex, I pursue it, and then I have it, and then I recover, and then I do the cycle again.
That's masculine
That's
sex.
the masculine, exactly. Whereas the feminine cycle is this circle and the feeling of safety and the feeling of
The
partnership.
safety is everything. It's the
Yeah.
safety is the intimacy. It's knowing that you can count on somebody. It's depending upon them. It's congruency, that they show up, that they don't disappear, that there's not ghosting. I don't think people understand how important communication is. And you and I learned very young that love is a function of communication, and that's
Yeah.
essential to safety.
Yeah.
And when
Absolutely.
someone doesn't respond, like as a woman, if someone doesn't respond and it's a man that I'm dating, I start to go like a little squirrely, you know?
Right. Indeed. Even with all the work we've done, all the,
We're
right. Like
still
this
human.
is, right.
We're
We still
still
have this,
we still are teenagers on the inside, right?
right. Exactly.
It's crazy making.
So crazy. What do people come to you to work with you on?
I am a psychic, a medium, and a trance channel, which means I bring forth higher energies. Jesus, Mary Magdalene, a whole host of 25 different ascended masters. People come to me to learn to open up their spiritual abilities, their clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance. People come to me to learn tools for psychic transformation. I call myself a transformational alchemist, and I take people's darkness and bring it back to the light. Because Einstein's my favorite spiritual being in the world. E equals MC squared means E is the equation for God, mass times the constant of the speed of light. If you take any object in the universe and you travel it at the speed of light, it converts back to pure white light energy. So energy is supposed to move through us, but if we have trauma or it comes too quickly, we block it, and that turns into illness, turns into
Absolutely.
cancer, turns into a whole myriad of things. So I help people unblock this so the energy can move through, and mostly it's done through breath, through communication, through love, and listening. People need to be listened. Oh my God, people are dying to be listened to. So I spend an
Yes,
hour session
literally.
with somebody, and 54 minutes I'm listening, and 6 minutes I'm working with them.
Yeah, that's incredible. We're not talking religion.
No, religion
We're
has nothing to do with this. This is,
right.
listen, my relationship with Jesus, if people understood how sarcastic and funny Jesus is, like, they have no idea. First of all, he didn't die on the cross. He was married to Mary Magdalene. They had children. He left Magdalene and he went to India and had more children. And his seed is spilled all over the land, and people don't want to hear this. And I got killed on TikTok when I have a girlfriend who's having the same conversation. She just got a death threat.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, they said someone
People are very
should put a bullet in you.
people are
She was
very
terrified.
attached to their beliefs, for better or worse. It's partly to do with what our world looks like today. Okay.
Crazy.
All right. Well, as you and I know, and we have done, we can talk for hours. Let me pause us a moment and ask, if people want to learn more about what you do or work with you, what is the best way to reach you?
You can find me on my website, which is Soma Life, www.sohmalife.com. I'm on TikTok, Lynn LaBorde. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Oh my God, I have this fabulous YouTube channel with like 3,000 videos and almost 4,000 followers. It's called the Soma Life Sanctuary. And we've got all kinds we have people that are channeling Jesus on there. We've done some amazing conversations and workshops and classes. I read the Akashic Records. I teach people how to read the Akashic Records. And then from there, once you learn these tools, I have one class that I teach. It's 12 weeks long. I teach you 12 tools for transformation. And with that, anything's and everything is possible. Past life work, future life, simultaneous existences, finding out why you have the afflictions that you do and why you chose to have them. Healing anything in your life is done through these tools and techniques. It's pretty incredible.
Beautiful. I love it. I totally love that.
Thank you.
I want to wrap us up by asking you a question that I ask every guest.
Okay.
What is one thing that you do to connect to your own hotness?
I stand in front of the mirror and look into my eyes. Jesus actually taught me this. He goes, look into the mirror until you see me looking back at you. And the minute that I connect to like my own soul, I get really turned on by it. Jesus is hot as far as I'm concerned. I know people lose their fucking minds over that, but he's very
awesome.
When I need to be cuddled and I'm by myself, I'm like, Jesus, come spoon me. I literally feel him behind me. He'll come and spoon me. Sometimes I'm crying my eyes out, but I'm like, I don't know, just completely turned on by my own essence.
I love it. That's so beautiful. I love that. So many times we walk past a mirror and like critique. So that's a beautiful invitation. So you're listening to this conversation that Lynn and I have had. I invite you to do that. Take a look into the mirror and watch
and look and find your own beauty.
Yes.
Find your own sensuality. She's there.
Yes.
And she's waiting for you to bring her forth.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, baby. I love you so much. This has been an absolute day. Thank you for the invitation. What a treat.
You are so welcome. I will see you soon.
Love you.
Thanks for listening to Hotness. Help more women find these practical tools by liking, sharing, and following the show, as well as leaving a review. As a gift for listening, go to drlizmd.com/hotness for your free midlife guide filled with powerful support for your mind, body, and soul, because you can embrace your hotness at every age.